We talked about data types and we talked about variables. In a variable, you can store one value, and that's it. But what if we wanted to store, say, 200 values? 2,000? 20,000? Then what? Are we going to declare 200 variables, 2,000 variables? It's not manageable. There must be a better way to do this. Well, that better way in programming is called arrays. In Python, we have basically three kind of arrays. One is a list, the other is a tuple, and the last is dictionary. We shorten by dict. Okay, we have something else called sets. So we have sets as well technically, but we're not going to work with them, and I don't think you will either. Anyway, we're going to talk about lists for now. So I can have a variable called my list equal sign. This is still a variable, right? But I can use brackets like this and put whatever I want inside my list. Say the number 11, 22, 33, and I can continue on and on. So now I have a list which contains three members, technically, members. Okay. Now I can access them with something called index, which is zero based, meaning this is the first member, 0, this is the second member, 1, and this is the third member. How can I access them? Say I want to print them. I say print. You name your array like this. You call the name of your array, then brackets, and use the index. So this will print 11. Similarly, I can do my list 1. This will print 22. Now this way, it's much more manageable and much easier to store multiple values into one variable. This variable obviously will be of type list, which is not a primitive type, and it's a complex type. So let's go see what we can do with these lists. I'm going to declare a list. My list equals bracket open and close 11, 22, 33, and 44. Now I can print simply and say my list and give it its index, say 0, and give me index 3. Let's hit F5, see what happens. So as you can see, 11 and 44 is being printed. Right. Isn't there a better way to do this? Like, aren't we doing the same thing again and again, printing? Can't we automate that? So we talked about loops before. When you want to do something repeatedly in programming, you use loops. So I'll say for item in my list, colon, and I can simply do whatever I want with them. I can print them. This item obviously is a variable name. You can call it whatever you want. Call it Apple. Okay? So it doesn't matter what name you choose. If you name it A, you use A here. Okay? So I put in item because it's much more descriptive. Let's hit F5. And we see the same thing happens. And we can do a lot more. Let's say I want my arrays to double up, each member. So I say times 2, F5, and as you can see, it's doubled. So what is happening behind the scenes is this. We have my list here. You use a for loop. You say for, instead of item, I'm going to call it I in my list, colon, and then here I say print I. What happens is that the compiler takes a look at my list and it sees it has 4 members. In this example, 3 members, 1, 2, and 3. So it knows it has to loop 3 times. Now, the first time it takes the first value and puts it in I. So it prints it, comes back up. Now it's the second time. It takes the second value, puts in an I, and prints it. And again turns around, and it's the third value, which is index 2. Put it in I and prints it. So that's how a for loop in Python works with lists. Okay, let's see something cool. I'm going to write another program. I'm going to say for letter in Taubes media, print letter. Let's comment this code. Save. By the way, comment means, hey, Mr. Compiler, ignore this. Ignore this. If you want to comment something in Python, you use a hashtag or # before your statement. And if you want to do it in VS Code, use highlight everything you want and use // or the question mark. So it toggles your comment. See? All right. Let's hit F5, see what happens. Apparently, the compiler takes this a string and it looks at it as an array. So if you go to data types, we talked about strings, and I told you that it's basically a collection of letters put together, and that's a string. That's exactly what we see here. This is an array, and you can put each character into this variable, temporary variable, and you can print it or do whatever else you want with it. All right. Can't we somehow know how long an array is? Isn't there something, you know, some function or something? We'll talk about functions later. Okay, let's uncomment this. And before everything, I'm going to use len, L-E-N, and in parentheses, I'm going to give it my list. And let's see what happens. F5. Now, before everything else is printed, you see number 4 here. So we can use the len function and give it our list, whatever it might be, and it returns the length of the array or list. So let's do another print len of Siavash Eglimi. Let's see what happens then. Well, that's my name. Aren't I a narcissist? Now, okay. It says 4 for your list, 4 items, and this is 15. So as you can see, this array thingy can be very, very useful. Very soon in other videos, we're going to use input and take the user's input. And we can do a lot of stuff with these arrays. Cheers.